Good evening to everyone who just watched The Value of Things. This was the very first time this movie by Tobias Luchsinger was shown in North America. And the screening was presented in the framework of the Swiss Innovation Fest and the Swiss Film Club. And we would also like to thank our partners for bringing this movie to the big screen, the Vivre Center in Vancouver and the Cinémathèque québécoise à Montréal. And please allow me to welcome the director of the film, Tobias Luchsinger. Welcome, Tobias.
Hello, thank you for having me here.
First of all, I see that you're in a very interesting location. Can you tell us a little bit more about where you are right now?
Yeah, we're actually right now at the scene where our documentary mainly has been shot, and it was like I'm sitting on the tribune, which you see in the end when we do like the screening with the bicycles and everything. Yeah, so we're like basically I'm still there where we shot the film.
That's a cool. Thank you for taking us there, and I see it's a beautiful evening. What I would like to talk to you about first is something that really stood out for me about your film, and that's this positive and light outlook that you have on sustainability. Because most of the time, naturally, when we talk about climate change, it's a very threatening conversation, a very scary conversation. People with charts, with lab coats on. And that's really different in your film. I find you have a very positive and also this curious view when it comes to sustainability. So I was wondering, what was your inspiration to bring this twist to the conversation around sustainability?
Yeah, as you said, I mean, it's a very severe topic. And of course, yeah, it has to be, we have to talk earnest about it. But also, I think like this format, because I'm a documentary filmmaker and we have a lot of time to make a film and we have a lot of time to do research and work on it. And for me, like this format, like this cinema documentary is sort of a good format to show topics in a different kind of way. And for me, that's the reason why I thought like I'd like to do it like with a more positive note, because for me it was a very a topic that really stresses me all the time. But also we have a lot to gain from like thinking in other ways. And I think in a film you can show sort of a utopia. And this is the reason why we've chosen to go to this topic with a different approach. Because I think people, they're often, if you always tell them like how bad things are and we're already at the tipping point, number 10 or whatever, then I think we're, yeah, you scare them more. And we have like the chance to show like this topic in a different kind of way. And I think the craving is there. People want to like, yeah, they're looking forward to see like this sort of approach.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was also very interested in these characters that you chose in the protagonists, the three people that you chose to portray. They come from different fields, fashion, construction, activism in the area of agriculture. So I also wondered, how did you come up exactly with these protagonists in these industries? Can you tell us a bit more about that?
When I did my research for this film, it was it became pretty soon it became clear to me that we have to show people from the food industry, from the fashion industry, and from the construction building industry, because it's very close to us, to everyone, because most of us, or we all have to eat, we all have to wear clothes. Most of us live or work in buildings. And so it was pretty clear for me that I have to like focus on these industries. And because also there is a lot to be done yet, you know, it's still very, they're not very ecological right now. And I wanted to show people who are really trying to change something in their fields, but in fields which are really close to everyone.
Yeah, yeah. So I think that's really a great message. Also, that aspect of showing people that see the restrictions or the change that they have to apply in order to become more sustainable as an opportunity. Right. And I think that's also an important message for you. Maybe you can elaborate a little bit on that.
The problem is we always, I mean, in rich countries like in Switzerland or in Canada or in the US, we are always very afraid of losing something, you know, and we always try to protect like the status quo. And from my point of view, we should be less afraid about that, and we should be more, maybe a bit more curious.
Mm-hmm.
My protagonists also, they show like a lot of willingness, but also a lot of curiosity to find different ways. And at least from my point of view, I think they really they benefit from this sort of curious point of view.
And then, of course, it's not just you're not showing other people working, towards solutions, but you and your team, you also applied sustainable solutions. It's basically a documentary of you guys making a documentary as well, right? So I would like to know why you chose to also take the crew into the spotlight and show the work behind the scenes for this film.
The reason why we show like sort of a making of this documentary is not, as you said, to put us in the spotlight because we are so cool or whatever. It's more, the reason was like, because I've, for the research for this film, I watched a lot of, like documentaries about sustainability, and I saw several, documentaries which were very, they showed something about this topic, but they were produced very unsustainably. And for me, that really sucks, because I think, or it made me really angry, and I wanted to do something different. And then I realized, like, if we do it like in this unconventional, sustainable way, we should really show it like in the film as well. And the reason isn't, as I said before, to put us in the spotlight, but it's more about like, it's like the self-reflection. And if everyone, especially in this like very privileged societies we are in, if we are, every one of us, or if each of us starts to think like, what can I do and change in my own environment, I think a lot would be like, there would be a lot would be going, you know. So that, I think, is the reason why we've chosen to show each ourselves in the film.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's a nice layer. It's also sometimes a very funny layer to see you guys struggle on the bikes or fight against, should we have a sausage or not? So I think that really adds a lot to the movie as well. And one more question I had about that was, as a filmmaker, of course, there's so many decisions you take throughout the whole production. And of course, deciding to film sustainably is a huge deal. So where are you going to film? What equipment can you use? That's all influenced, right? So what were the decisions, or what were the consequences of those decisions for your film? Where did you have to pivot because you wanted to be sustainable?
I think, I mean, the most sustainable thing we did, I think it was like producing and filming locally in Zurich, in my hometown. And we went once to Italy by train, we went several times to Bern, but generally we were filming in Zurich, and everything was like in walking distance because Zurich is such a small town. And I mean, yeah, of course, it would have been nice to like fly around the globe to produce a documentary like this, because it's an adventure as a filmmaker. But honestly, like the advantages are much higher than the disadvantages, because I already know the environment. So I could like start right away with the protagonist. I didn't need like a lot of time to get to know their culture or whatever. We could like shoot spot on. And also it was, most of the shooting was happened during COVID. So like whilst all the other productions were shut down, we were still able to work. And that was actually for us a huge advantage. And I'm very keen of this idea that we like talk about big topics, but with like local examples. So I think there are more advantages to that than disadvantages.
And what does that mean now for your future work, as a filmmaker? Because now you have done this sustainable production, this local production. I'm sure this left a mark on you as well. Will you, in the future, you think again, do something in Ethiopia like you did in the past, or will you focus on more local projects? Like, what does that mean now for you as a filmmaker, this experience?
Yeah, I mean, we as a film crew, we always kid about, or we're always kidding about this, and we're saying like now, if we want to do something less sustainable, we have to like do it under an alias or something, because we're not, yeah, because otherwise we wouldn't be like believable anymore. No, but jokes aside, I think in general, I think like the sustainability will always be a part of my work, and I think always like I'm gonna think about like the sustainability as well as about other things like budget or whatever. But it's but I think if there is like a topic which is so interesting that you have to like go to Latin America or to North America, then of course if you have to do that, then you should do it, but you should always like think and reflect about it, and this is, I think, the thing that is most important. And like for my next project, I'd like to also work in Switzerland, but also it has to do something with the climate change, but in a totally different way. And I think generally you can do a lot of sustainable films with a high quality, and eventually maybe I'll do something which is a bit less sustainable, and that's also fine as long as I try to do as good as possible, I think. Or at least I think if all people would reflect more about stuff, then a lot would happen already, because most of people, for a lot of people it's very important, the topic, but a lot of people also just don't reflect, and they just do without thinking. And for me, it's important that I can live with myself. And also, this is maybe something I want to add. It's like it felt really good to, even though we're just such a small part in this huge debate, it felt really good to be a part of it, because I never doubted the relevancy of our film or of a project, and this is just something that feels really, really good, and that's why I would do it or work like this again.
Yeah, so that sounds really interesting, and we are going to be eagerly following your next projects and see, where you end up and what these projects are going to be. For now, I would like to thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today, and congratulations again on this wonderful film, Tobias.
Thank you very much, and thanks for showing our film in Canada. It's very exciting, even though I couldn't be there because of sustainable reasons generally. I'll come to the Bahamas maybe, but I really enjoyed it, and thank you so much for having us. Bye.